There's growing global alarm over Omicron, the new coronavirus variant that first emerged in South Africa. Researchers say it could be the most infectious form of the virus so far, and it might even beat current vaccines. The international response has been swift. Many countries have shut down air travel from South Africa itself. The bans also extend to other southern African nations, including Namibia, Botswana, Zimbabwe, and Mozambique. The South African government says the closures are an overreaction.
Omicron has moved quickly. Now countries around the world are racing to get ahead of it, banning flights from the region where the variant was first discovered. South Africans suddenly find themselves cut off from the world.
My fear currently is travel restrictions, because that's a huge part of my job. So for me, it's the implications this is going to have, to move around for work.
It's really concerning, and the fact that at the moment, the vaccines that are on the market, nobody knows if actually they're going to be effective against this variant or not. It's really worrying for me.
Since the UK announced its travel ban, many other countries have followed suit. South Africa's government says they acted too quickly.
The reaction of some of countries in terms of imposing travel bans and such measures are completely against the norms and standards as guided by the World Health Organization. The UK simply went ahead and imposed the restrictions without even engaging us. So that was basically a unilateral action.
As quickly as the travel restrictions were announced, they are more likely to slow down rather than completely stop the spread of Omicron. Dutch health officials fear that dozens of COVID-infected passengers who arrived in Amsterdam on Friday might also be infected with the new variant. Hong Kong, Israel, and Belgium have already confirmed cases. The world has made progress in the fight against the coronavirus, but the new variant shows that the battle is far from won. The message for now from many officials: get the vaccine, get the booster, and follow public health regulations.
I'm talking to Cooper Schmidt now. He's a molecular biologist and science journalist. Kai, in a nutshell, what's the main difference between Omicron and the variants we already know about?
Well, it's not that easy to pinpoint, actually. I mean, we have to realize that at the moment, we really only have two things to go on. We have what's happening in South Africa, where this virus, for the moment, it looks like is replacing Delta. That suggests that it might spread faster than Delta or better than Delta or reinfect people better. We don't know that yet. It's just one spot, but that's the one thing. The other thing is the genome. And the genome of this virus is quite unusual. I mean, it has a lot of the same mutations that we've seen in Alpha, in Beta, and Delta, so some of the variants of concern that we've seen. But it also has a lot of other mutations, some of which, science that was done already a year ago showed would be very concerning because they might make the virus better at escaping immunity. So at the moment, we really have two really, really big red flags, let's say. But certainly we're going to have to wait the next days and weeks to find out, which of these fears are actually going to be true, or any of them.
We still have a lot more to learn, clearly, but let me ask you this. Is it likely that Omicron's roots are, in fact, in South Africa, or is it more likely that the South Africans test more and therefore have discovered now for a second time a new variant?
Well, South Africa clearly is the country on that continent that tests the most widely. It has a very good surveillance network, and I think the South African scientists have done outstanding work here. And they went public very early with this when they had just 100 genomes, because they knew that it was very important in this situation to get the news out fast so that people could prepare for what might come. But, travel restrictions, what's happening at the moment, we can't be 100% certain that this came from South Africa. Certainly, you would expect it to maybe be in neighboring countries. The virus was also picked up in Botswana, which is why some of the travel restrictions have targeted a broader area. But travel restrictions come at a high cost. And most importantly, they do create a disincentive for countries to even announce or even look for new variants. So we have to be very careful with this. We are not going to be able to stop this virus with travel restrictions. I think that's very clear. We might be able to slow it down. You can make the case for these travel restrictions, but then we really should be using the time that we gain with these travel restrictions to do something. And at the moment, frankly, I don't really see what we're doing when we're not even in Germany, for instance, doing what it takes to combat the virus in our own borders.
Kai, we've already seen vaccination breakthroughs with the Delta variant. Could vaccines be even less effective with Omicron, and to what extent?
Okay, so at the current point, I think it's speculation. If you look at the genome, there clearly are signs that are very concerning. And the experts that I've talked to that have looked at, antibody neutralization from different viruses all suspect that this virus might be a little bit more difficult for vaccine-induced immunity or natural immunity to combat. That doesn't mean it's not a black and white thing. It doesn't mean that immunity suddenly goes away. But there is a big chance, I would say, that we will find out that the vaccines are slightly less effective against this variant. But we're going to have to wait for the experiments to be done. That takes 1 or 2 weeks. So hopefully in 2 weeks we will know this. But certainly we have to prepare for the possibility. And even if it's not true for this variant, we have to prepare for the possibility that other variants will come, and it will happen sooner or later.
We have to leave it there, I'm afraid. We could talk to you all day. Molecular biologist and journalist Cooper Schmidt, many, many thanks.
Thank you.
Let's bring in DW correspondent Adrian Krish in Cape Town. Adrian, more and more countries are banning travel from South Africa. How concerned is the government by this?
Well, the government here is also concerned, Michael. The president, Cyril Ramaphosa, announced that there will be a National Corona Council meeting on Sunday, so possibly more restriction within South Africa are also on the table. You have to recall that in the past weeks, the numbers of new infections were very low here, so life got almost back to normal, I would say. Earlier this month, there were new infections rates of about 100 a day. In the past days, it went up significantly, though, to above 2,500 new infections a day, and scientists here are saying this is the start of the fourth wave in South Africa. If it is driven by the new variant is not clear. It's also not clear how bad it is going to be. Some are arguing it might be not that bad because it's summer here at the moment. But what is quite clear also is that South Africa can't really count on its vaccination program because of very low vaccination rates here. Less than 25% of South Africans are vaccinated. There's massive vaccine hesitancy.
Adrian, of course, I imagine the news about travel bans hasn't been received very well there.
No, absolutely. Especially amongst the scientists who discovered this new variant. One of the leading researchers basically said the world should show solidarity instead of isolating these countries now. I mean, here in South Africa and also globally, they are praised for their transparency, but now many people here have the feeling they're getting punished for that. And another scientist even argued, even said it is naive to believe that these travel bans can really stop the virus from spreading. According to him, if there's anything that this pandemic has shown is that the virus will still continue to spread and to travel with its variants. Unless you're an island, you will not be able to stop it. And of course, this will have massive consequences for the South African economy. And many people here feel it's like a déjà vu of sort of what happened about a year ago when the beta variant was discovered here in South Africa by South African scientists. Although up until now, it is not clear if it really originated here. But the consequences were harsh. We saw back then also travel bans from many countries. The tourist arrivals went down. It has had a massive impact on the economy, and this is very likely what we're going to see again now. The tourism sector will suffer a lot here just when the season has started again. Yesterday I went to a local tourist market here where people are selling souvenirs, and the sellers there are devastated. One man told me he doesn't know how to put food on the table for his kids if no tourists are coming.
Deja vu for South Africa. That's DW's Adrian Krish in Cape Town. Many thanks. Here's some other developments in the pandemic. The Netherlands has again tightened restrictions. Bars, restaurants, and non-essential shops must close by 5 p.m. Canada is to criminalize anti-vaccination protests outside hospitals and clinics. The crackdown comes after medical staff were harassed at work. And U.S. drug maker Merck has admitted its new COVID-19 pill is less effective than early trials indicated. The treatment has a 30% chance of preventing hospitalization or death.